What is up, everybody? Matt Moda here to give you some NFL player prop bangers. It's the NFL Week 8 betting slate, and we're locking in these plays specifically for the Sunday slate, October 27th. Now, the NBA season has started slow, but the NFL season has been absolutely incredible. That continued. We had a profitable day on Thursday night. Now, I'll do the full Week 8 recap once the week has finished. But it was nice to be profitable on Thursday night. And overall, the season has just been incredible. As you can see, all the data on the screen here, up over 23 units, up over, I think, 35% ROI at this point. It's just been amazing, the success that we've had. And let's keep it going. Let's not rest on our laurels. Let's continue to have a ton of success for the NFL. We can get right into it. So I'm going to have 4 players that we are backing. And admittedly, we got some juicy props for the Sunday betting slate. I have one guy that I'm just taking one play straight up, no ladder. 3 guys that we are laddering up to pretty juicy odds. So hopefully people climb a lot of ladders this week and it ends up being a great day. And let's get right into it. So the first play that we're locking in here is our only non-ladder play of the day. Instead, we're doing a pump up prop on Joe Burrow, 275 plus passing yards. You can get this at plus 136 odds at FanDuel. Just putting a 1 unit McSlam on this bad boy as opposed to any ladder play. But I really like this play on Joe Burrow. I think it's the perfect play to fade recent results of what has happened so far in this regular season. If you look at Joe Burrow, he's only hit this prop in 2 games. If you look at the Eagles defense, they have only allowed 1 passer to do this year. But I think that there are reasons to believe in Joe Burrow and reasons to fade this Eagles defense. I mean, for the first 4 games of the season, the Eagles defense was horrific, one of the worst in the NFL. They've been very good over the last 2 weeks, but to me, that seems like more fool's gold than anything. You have to look at the matchups of who the Eagles defense has played. Yes, they did not allow a single defensive touchdown, which is very good. But those 2 games were against the Browns and against the Giants. The Browns have literally the worst offense in the NFL, according to DVOA, and they actually had a better offensive performance against the Eagles than their average. Their EPA, their success rate, all that stuff was higher in that game against the Eagles. They just didn't score a touchdown because Deshaun Watson stinks. And then the Giants, now they're only 22nd in offensive DVOA, but they've really fallen off over the past 2 weeks. They've just looked terrible over the past 2 weeks, so they're even worse than the 22nd ranking is showing you. And the Eagles, 18th ranked defensive DVOA. But if you dig into the numbers, like, it's not that impressive of a performance. In week 1, yes, they allowed Jordan Love to go under 275 plus passing yards. They allowed like a 75-yard pass play in that game, and Jordan Love was that was the Brazil game. For those of you that don't remember, Jordan Love was slipping all up and down the field, could not get his feet right in that game. And then in week 2, yeah, Kirk Cousins also went under 275 plus passing yards, but the Falcons offense could do whatever they wanted in that game. They did not have a single 3 and out in that game. They always got a first down, I think they got multiple first. I think they got 3 or more first downs on like two-thirds of their drive. Just a really bad game from the Eagles defense. And when the Falcons needed to pass, they just could do whatever they wanted. And then you look at the worst game that the Eagles defense played, is what I think is the most comparable to this game against the Bengals. It was against the Buccaneers. They allowed Baker Mayfield to pass for 347 yards against the Baker Mayfield pass for that amount against the Eagles. And that's when you look into like what happened in that game, that's what I think can happen in this game against the Bengals. The Bucs employed a quick passing game. They got the ball out very quick, just like 2 steps, pass, 2 steps, pass. And that's something that Joe Burrow is more than capable of doing. And the Eagles defense, like, they could sit on routes against Deshaun Watson and Daniel Jones, which you can't do against the Bengals. So I think that Joe, like, the Eagles defense is ripe for some regression. And looking at Joe Burrow, he's only hit this prop in 2 games this year, but don't let that fool you. Joe Burrow has been very good this year. In week 3, threw for 324 yards against the Commanders. 2 weeks later, 392 yards against the Ravens. Those are 2 games in which the Bengals needed to pass, and they were capable of doing so. The thing is, he just hasn't needed to pass in like 3 of the last 4 games that they've played. Horrible Panthers, horrible Giants, horrible Browns were the 3 games that he went under. He also went under in week 1. We take that out. Week 1 almost never matters for the rest of the season. And then he went under against the Chiefs, who have a very good passing defense. So I love this play on Joe Burrow. 1 unit McSlam on him to get the 275 plus passing yards. Next up, and now is where we start climbing ladders. Same game, we're climbing a Devonte Smith receptions ladder. I'm taking him over 4.5 receptions for a full unit, minus 108 odds at FanDuel. Then we're going 6+ receptions for a half unit, plus 174 odds at FanDuel. And then we're going 7+ receptions for a quarter unit plus 320 odds at Bet365. And if you're watching this, all that information is listed on the screen here. If you're listening, then take some notes, but I would recommend looking at the screen so you can get exactly an idea of what we're doing. So another buy low, fade recent results type of opportunity. Devonte Smith hasn't done anything for the past 2 weeks. Perfect. Let's buy back in on his receptions prop. He hit 7 receptions in each of the Eagles' first 3 games of the year, 8, 10, and 10 targets. But he hasn't done anything the past 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, 3 receptions on 4 targets. Last week, only 1 reception for -2 yards on 2 targets. Again, Eagles offense did not need to pass, as the Eagles defense did not allow a single touchdown in either of those games. I mean, his average passing attempts in the last 2 weeks for Jalen Hurts, 19.5. The first 4 games of the year, he had at least 30 passing attempts in all 4 of those games. And against the Bengals, 100% the Eagles are going to need to pass to be able to keep up, which means probably 30 pass attempts like we saw the first month of the season. And, I'm not going to sit here and make the argument that Devonte Smith is the number 1 option in the passing game for the Eagles, because he's not. That title goes to A.J. Brown. Devonte Smith is still a very good receiver who still has plenty of production, even with A.J. Brown on the other side of the field. Yeah, like 2 of the games that Smith had 7 receptions, A.J. Brown was out. Let's just look at the last 30 games. 30 game sample size that both Devonte Smith and A.J. Brown have played football together. Devonte Smith has gotten at least 5 receptions in 19 of those 30 games, so at least would cash the mainline prop. And Nick Sirianni is intimately aware and has publicly stated that he wants both receivers heavily involved. So if there's ever a situation in which one of the receivers has a couple games where they're lacking targets, have had a couple quiet games in a row, Nick Sirianni makes it a priority and a point to correct that. Let's look at the same 30 game sample size. There has not been one single stretch of games where Devonte Smith went under 4.5 receptions in 3 straight games. He's had quiet stretches before. He's always followed that up with being heavily involved after that. Again, never gone under 4.5 in 3 straight games. So I'm very, very confident in the 5+. And I think he's got ladder potential up to 7+ as well. So that's our second play, our first ladder play of the slate. Next up, we're taking another ladder. Obviously, the last 2 are all ladders. Jaden Reed receiving yards ladder. I'm taking him 60+, 75+, 90+, and 100+. So again, the screen details exactly how we are playing it. 60+ is at plus 100 odds at Fliff for a full unit McSlam. 75+ is at plus 210 odds at Bet365 for a half unit. The last 2 are both for a quarter unit. 90+ is plus 380 odds at DraftKings. 100+ is plus 550 odds also at DraftKings. You're going to guess the theme here. Another buy low opportunity against a bad defense, in this case, Jaden Reed, against a horrible, just atrocious Jaguars defense. And Jaden Reed, he's like kind of like Deshaun Jackson. He's just a boomer bust type of receiver. He's not someone that's going to just consistently get yards. He's going to explode, and then he's going to do nothing. He's had 2 games this year with over 130 yards this season. He's had 4 games this year with 50 or less receiving yards. Now, he's had 2 quiet weeks in a row. Now he's going to blow up again against a just despicably bad Jaguars defense. Now, I'm not going to say anything other than it's been disgusting for Jaden Reed the last 2 weeks. 28 receiving yards 2 weeks ago, 10 receiving yards last week. That makes sense. Look at the first 3 games he played specifically with Jordan Love. Now, I'm taking out 2 games that Jordan Love missed because you cannot make any conclusions from Malik Willis throwing the ball. It's just different. The 3 games prior to the last 2 weeks, so the first 3 games of the year for Jaden Reed and Jordan Love, 138, 139, and 78 receiving yards. That's 2 times he would have cashed the full ladder and then some. And then the third game, he would have at least cashed the first 2 legs. So yeah, when he's blown up 3 games in a row with Love, of course it makes sense that he's going to have some quiet games after that, especially in a Packers offense that has a bunch of targets. But he's got a great matchup against the Jaguars for him to blow up. According to DVOA, the Jags have the worst, literally 32nd pass defense in the NFL. They've allowed the 2nd most passing yards per game and the 4th most receiving yards, specifically to wide receivers in the NFL. All bad, very bad. What the Jaguars have tried to do is play man. They're zagging. They're playing man coverage while the rest of the NFL plays zone. Unfortunately, they're not good at doing that. Now, I will admit, if you look at Jaden Reed, he has better raw production against zone coverage than he does against man. This is per fantasy points. But if you look at more advanced stats, like how he grades out, he actually seems to be much, much better against man than zone, just according to separation score and win rate. His, like both those numbers, separation score and win rate, significantly better against man coverage than zone coverage. And he's got the best separation score on the Packers against man. So he should get a couple big plays down the field. He should blow up in this game. If you wanted to climb, just keep climbing all the way up to 150, I don't think that's crazy. If this was a standalone primetime game, I probably would, but I'm just, because we have so many other plays on the board, so many units risked, I'm just laddering him up to 100 and calling it a day. But that's play number 3 and our second ladder play of the day. Last up, fourth and final pick, third ladder play. It's a Tyreek Hill ladder. 90 plus, 100 plus, 110 plus receiving yards is how I'm playing him. 90 plus, full unit McSlam, plus 115 odds at DraftKings. 100 plus, plus 175 odds at DraftKings for a half unit. And 110 plus, I'm also playing for a half unit at plus 245 odds. Now, I'm fully ready to admit that this is probably the squarest play on the board backing Tyreek Hill. But hey, so was Justin Jefferson on Thursday Night Football, and he came through for us. But the reality is, with Tua Tagovailoa back in the lineup and a good matchup against a horrible Cardinals defense, it's good. Time to finally buy back in on Tyreek Hill receiving props. I'm not going to say that he wasn't good. I'm not going to say anything other than the fact that he was horrendous in the past, 6 weeks that Tua missed. But that data is no longer relevant. You cannot look at games with and without Tua and compare them together, right? If you just look at the games that Tyreek Hill has played with Tua, he's gotten to at least 90 receiving yards in 11 of 19 games, so above a 50% hit rate. He's gotten to at least 100 in 10 of 19 games, better than 50% hit rate. And he's gotten to at least 110 in 8 of 19 games, not quite a 50% hit rate, but better than the odds that we are getting. So if you just look at the odds, the winning percentage of the odds based on the hit rate, it looks like a good value play. Now, of course, things are never as easy as looking at that. But I just really am trying to illustrate the type of production that Tyreek Hill puts up with Tua in the lineup. Now, there's 100% risk, without a doubt. Tua could either not be himself, because we've seen that before. He returns from a concussion, doesn't play well. He could just be rusty after missing a ton of time, or he could get another hit to the head and miss significantly more time. But if we're just isolating the player, just isolating the matchup, it's a great one for Tyreek Hill. Now, the Cardinals defense, they're not quite the Jaguars level bad. They're definitely bad. 4th worst passing defense, according to DVOA. And, the concern with the Cardinals is that they're equally bad against both the pass and the run. They're equal opportunists in terms of how they want to be bad. But when teams decide to pass on the Cardinals, they absolutely have success doing so. The Cardinals have allowed the 7th most receiving yards to wide receivers. That's already bad, but advanced stats make them show even worse, and specifically even worse when looking at Tyreek Hill. The Cardinals have allowed the highest yards per attempt in the NFL to wide receivers, the highest yards per target to wide receivers, the 5th highest yards per reception. So a defense that gives up a ton of chunk plays does not sound like a good defense when facing Tyreek Hill and the Dolphins. So Tyreek Hill told us that we can trust him in fantasy. I'm going to believe it. I'm going to ladder him up to 110 plus receiving yards as our 4th and final pick of the video. That's all we got in terms of plays. I appreciate everybody for sticking with me. Make sure to like the video, make sure to comment, and of course, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. That stuff helps me out a ton. And then the last thing that I'll mention is consistently the last thing I mention at the end of every video is that I do have a Dub Club. It's where I send every single play out for $5 a month. Gets everything I'm playing sent directly to your phone via text, email, or Telegram. If you're unfamiliar, Dub Club is just a service you can sign up for to have people like me send plays to people like you. If you don't want to watch the YouTube videos, you don't always have time to watch the YouTube videos, or you just want to get plays in before the odds change, that's why I have the Dub Club. Those 3 reasons. Because as soon as I decide what a play is, the very, very first thing I do is send it out to Dub Club. So the odds that you see on the screen here could be different by the time you watch this. Unfortunately, I can't help that, but they were 100% able to be gotten by the people in the Dub Club. So if you're interested, check that out. If you're not interested, not a problem. I still give out everything for free on YouTube and on Twitter, so you don't get any extra plays on the Dub Club. You get the same plays that I give out for free. Like I said, you just get them early, and you get them without having to watch YouTube or check Twitter. So if you're interested, check that out. Again, if not, no problem. Now that's all we got. I appreciate everybody for watching, and have a good one.